The last episode was in 2021, right?
2021
God,
November.
what are our names?
Say my name.
Why are we starting the podcast like this?
May I call you Mista?
I love how, like, at the very least, you see Manny has the Gengar behind him, a clear Z for the Zelda, the poster, and like a cabinet with all of his Zelda shit. Jazz just has like purple lighting, and I just got some fucking laundry.
You can
I'm
tell
like,
which one of us just.
I'm a gamer, guys.
I was gonna say we're all like in different stages of our lives.
I mean, if you could
It's
see
like the
what's in front of
progression
me, it'd be great.
of like me living by myself. Jazz like just recently moved in and engaged, and then Taz with child.
With child.
With
Period.
child.
You will be where I am, and you will hate it.
You love your daughter.
She's all right.
All right. On that note, welcome to the first episode of Not Quite High Score. So, if it's your first time here, we're a podcast that primarily focuses on video game and video games related news. And I'm Manny, and I'm joined by my cousins Jazz and Taz. Guys, say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. And for the handful of you that are returning listeners, welcome back.
Let's not be generous.
The three
For
of
the-
you that are returning listeners.
For all of the one of you.
So we used to upload. We did about 61 episodes of this from like 2017 to 2021, and we had decided back then to kind of put it to rest. I don't exactly remember why. I'm not sure if it was like we weren't enjoying it as much, or we had like other like life responsibilities at that time.
I think it's what happened is Trump left office and we thought the world just didn't need us anymore. And now that he's back, it's time to resurrect Not Quite
You
High
know-
Score.
The thing I was gonna say, the real reason was that we had one listener, and it was Manny's brother, and he used to drive from Montreal to Ottawa quite often. He doesn't do that anymore,
That's true,
right?
he
Because he
lives there now.
moved. So
we don't,
you know,
we
so
don't need to
Yo,
get
what
we
about-
lost.
What about
We lost our
Natalie?
listener.
What about Natalie?
That is true. I guess what Manny wanted to say is that we we always wanted this podcast to be a space where we can just talk about what we love. So, no scripted news, no fake hype, no fake news, just real opinions and great discussions. All right, take it away.
All right, take it away.
I'm trying to circle back, man. Come on,
Uh,
man. I'm trying to reel this back in.
Anyways, moving on.
Moving on.
Right. So I hate doing this out of like any other context, but how about a brief introduction or just kind of like talk about ourselves for a quick couple of seconds? Jazz seems eager to go first, so Jazz, why don't you go first?
What I don't know what made you, I don't know what gave that away.
I have a better idea.
Okay.
I'll intro Jazz. Jazz intros me, and
No.
then someone
No.
else will intro you. But let's make it.
Look,
But we'll make it earnest.
Okay,
Look.
sure.
I'll intro Manny, okay? So
Alright, go
this
for it.
man needs no introduction.
All right, moving
Okay.
on.
But
I need a beer.
great guy, one of the biggest Legend of Zelda fan that I know. I believe he went to Japan with an empty suitcase inside another suitcase just so that he can bring a bunch of Zelda accessories and gadgets and whatnot. But yeah, has a YouTube channel. Hopefully we're going to be revitalizing that as well, and
We'll see.
That's
Shout-
it.
Shout out, Mr. Lost Link.
shout out Mr. Lost Link.
I
There
don't
you
know if I'm
go.
gonna.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, basically.
So now basically Manny has to introduce Taz, and then Taz has to introduce me.
No,
I'm
you
not-
gonna get it, boy.
I'm not. I don't know. Oh my god! All right.
come on. This is a good challenge. This is great.
So Taz, out of all of us, is the I think I can confidently say he's the most well versed in like video game knowledge and like history and like news and all that stuff. He loves his competitive fighting games. Although you don't play competitively, you just really like to play like Tekken, mainly Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
I like to
You
feel good about myself.
He just destroys
and yet
us.
I don't
and
like to
yet you
go on.
play
I don't like
online
to
and get your
go
ass kicked.
online. I don't look, man. You should mention the important bits. Is that I'm married and I have a 6-month-old child, and
He's a father, ladies. He's off the
my
market.
prime days are behind me. Okay,
You
these
still
days,
you still go through video games like it's nothing. Like you,
Hey, you're a stud muffin, okay?
yeah, we're not doubting
fucking
that.
goddamn right I am. I never said I
Look at that
wasn't,
beard.
Jaspinder, but thank you.
But
Yo,
yeah. Anyways,
honestly, I have to say, I'm gonna cut you off for a second. If there's one
how about
thing,
your own introduction? Yeah.
if
Okay.
we're like let's say we're going through the things that we're most proud of that we've accomplished in the last 4 years. I got this fucking beard on lock right now. All right,
It's not your daughter. It's not the fact you bought a house or got
It's
married.
the
It's your
beard.
beard.
you guys don't understand.
It's a nice
It's
beard.
it's a point of pride. All
Yeah.
right, my daughter, she shits and she eats, but she's yet to do anything that makes me proud. You know what I mean?
She's like not, not even a year old.
You gotta earn your keep in this house. Okay, so but
I think
I digress. You can
I
go
think
on.
you did a good job at filling the rest of the blank for your own introduction. So
Perfect.
why don't you go ahead and introduce Jazz?
So just
Or
Binder
just,
sucks. No. Uh, this guy has a master's in math. He doesn't understand R. The letter R specifically just means nothing to this child. He's a big fan of space, despite the fact that he'll never be able to go. If not for his physique, then for the fact that he wears glasses, which automatically disqualifies any candidacy he ever would have had of seeing
disqualifies all of us.
outer space. I don't want to go to space. Well, I mean, maybe now with everything happening with the states and all that, but again, I digress. But no. You're a very reliable guy. You love your video games. I think Among Us the biggest fan of music games. You definitely
Mm.
have a very large library of Rock Band and Guitar Hero music, and I think out of all of us, you're probably the one most bound to get a guitar again and start kind of jamming out. Yeah, you're an okay guy.
Man, having tears
You
in
know,
my eyes.
of all of the cousins that I have, I gotta say you're probably one of them.
I just realized we're a family video game podcast, but not so family friendly.
No.
Hey, I
Yeah.
haven't
Where's the
swore
fun
yet.
in that?
You said we shouldn't swear, and I am doing my gosh darnest not to.
Well, I'm fully expecting for it to kind of leak out at one point.
I mean, at some
So
point, look, it's gonna come out. It's
yeah.
just it's part of me. It's in the veins, but I'm making the conscious effort. All right.
And you know what? You're
We
doing
wanna
Lord's work.
we wanna monetize this. I wanna make money off of I don't know Natalie. Um, I'm sorry, Natalie. All right, moving on. I think Deep's about to hit the disconnect button.
I'm about to sell my PC. Just
Uh,
Drop off
I
your
all right,
GPU.
don't bother.
all
We
right.
have better GPUs.
I'm still rocking a 1070. All right. So,
Yeah.
something we've done in the past, and we're bringing it back because we kind of enjoy talking about what we're playing. So it's just we go around. We're not necessarily talking about the latest games, but just what we're playing, what we've discovered, how we're enjoying it, and we don't usually spend too much time about it. It's just kind of like it's fun to just bring up maybe some obscure things we have we people don't talk about, or maybe some games that people have forgotten have been released. So who wants to go first?
Yeah, I can go if it's cool with you guys. Currently playing Assassin's Creed Mirage. So what I really appreciate about this game, that it really feels like it's a return to stealth and parkour, and what really made Assassin's Creed so much fun. Obviously, Taz and I are big Creed fans. We've played Odyssey and Valhalla and Origins. I think we probably put I don't know, like a combined like 300-400 hours. Like you know. Uh, Again, great games, but honestly, to me, what I really appreciated about Mirage was that it really did mark a shift back to the franchise origins. So it really emphasized stealth and parkour over the expansive RPG elements of the later games. And to be honest with you, like definitely appreciate that a lot more. I don't feel like it's grindy. I don't need to level up at a certain, level to do a mission. And I just like the fact that the gameplay has been more streamlined. Like there's more of a focus on the narrative and the gameplay experience rather than the whole grinding mechanics and the RPG elements to it. And don't get me wrong, like you still are able to upgrade your weapons. You're still able to upgrade, like, the what is it, like the sleeping darts, and like the throwing knives and everything like that, but it definitely feels more, like, they're really focused on the stealth. And I also appreciate the fact that the map is much smaller. um Again, there's nothing wrong with Odyssey and Valhalla or any of those games, but I do appreciate the fact that I can play this game for 25 to 30 hours and feel satisfied,
If you were to give me like a sense of scale in terms of how big the map is here versus something like Odyssey.
Wow. So I'm about 6 hours into the game, and I definitely do see the map, expanding, and maybe 10, 15 hours into it. I would still say that it's maybe like a third of the map that you would have in Origins or even Odyssey. I forgot which one of them actually had the bigger map, whether it was Origins or Odyssey or whether they were similar, but I would say that it's about maybe a third of the map. I could be wrong on that, but that's just like the feeling that I get. I don't feel like I have to travel, for minutes on end just to kind of get to like the next objective,
And you
and
feel
and I like
like,
that.
well, considering the map is smaller, do you feel like they're at least using that to their advantage in terms of making the world a bit more densely packed and make it feel more lived in versus, let's say, something like Odyssey where you have the cities, but then everything beyond that, it's a sort of, it's very nice looking and there's a lot of vegetation and all that, but there's not much really going on.
I'm glad that you actually mentioned that because that was one of the points that I wanted to talk about as well. I actually like the fact that the world is indeed engaging. It's compact, but it is very engaging. So, the game is set in Baghdad, and the environment is actually dense, and it does encourage exploration. But what I do like is that it encouraged verticality. So again, reminiscent to the original AC games, like the first 2 3 games in the series, you want to go up the rooftops and jump around and do some crazy parkour. So again, it's great because it takes those elements of exploration from like the recent games, but again, really pushes you to look at the game more in the sense of like the verticality of it, and kind of jumping up, I was going to say buildings, but jumping up, towers and whatnot, and just kind of going, again, just kind of doing all this like crazy parkour stuff. So, and again, I like the fact that it eliminates the traditional XP grind. Not that I'm not a fan of it, but I just wanted to pick up a game that really focused on like the narration, and the main character is solid as well. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's a great game, and I'm not gonna say like, oh, if you enjoyed Odyssey, you're not gonna enjoy this. I just think that if you're a fan of Assassin's Creed and you really want a game that is more, centered towards like narration and, just kind of what made the original game so well received and so appreciated, Mirage, especially with Ubisoft Plus. You pay $20, and you can finish it under a month. Maybe not you, Taz, with with the kid and everything, but I think that $20 is well worth it for sure. And I think that the only critique that I have is, and again, like, I do miss a little bit of the depth of the customization, but it's just a very small thing, and I like the fact that, in this game they give you these things called, contracts. The contracts are, they're not mandatory, they're optional, and they really do, urge you to use more of like a stealth approach. So you'll do a lot of these contracts, and some of them are just going to be like, well, do this contract without getting spotted. You can still finish the contract, but you won't get the full rewards. But again, it incentivizes you to, kind of, go at it a bit more strategically instead of just kind of going, guns a blazing.
So does
Was
Um,
this
Assassin's Creed Shadows what kind of made you want to go back and play some of the games you hadn't played in the series?
yeah, I mean, I've been reading a lot of, stuff about Shadows. I know that Taz and I were both, cautiously optimistic about Shadows, especially because it's set in Japan, and like people have been wanting Assassin's Creed in Japan for the longest time. but I think that Ghost of Tsushima has kind of done that. So like that urge, that itch that I had to want an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, I feel like it's been satisfied with Ghost of Tsushima. But I've been reading a lot of kind of lukewarm responses for Shadows, so it kind of disappoints me. And again, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know what to expect anymore from that game. I'm hoping that the delays, the delays really help them kind of refine the game. But I just don't understand. I just don't know how like a month or two of delaying a game is going to improve it. Um, so we'll see.
Sometimes I feel like it can make the world of difference, especially if
Well, in this
if
case, I
there's a
think
lot of
I hope so.
they had outright said that the last delay that set the game releasing into March was just to work on the climbing a little more and to refine the parkour.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
there's no fundamental change happening. The mission structures, the fact that there's still the two protagonists, the fact that from what a lot of the previews tend to say is that there just isn't much incentive to go towards the stealth route versus, I guess, guns blazing,
exactly.
quote unquote. But I don't
Yeah.
know, man. I feel like
I
games
personally
like
have chalked it up to
this,
like when how games tend to critics tend to be kind of harsh. Well, and rightfully so when a game comes out and it's buggy, and Ubisoft is also known to have issues day one with some of their games. So if it's like if it takes them an extra month or two to work out some of the kinks, then take the
I don't
time you
know.
need.
I take
I
issue with
hope so.
everyone saying that there's no use in stealth in this game, considering even if you look at something like Ghost of Tsushima, you could stealth it, but it's entirely an option. You could go guns blazing if you want, if you're good enough to actually battle everyone and sort of, depending on the enemies, if you have whatever proper stance unlocked and this and that. But yeah, I kind of think Tsushima trumped it in some ways already, not only with the setting, but the quality of the setting and just the overall quality of
Absolutely.
the gameplay.
Mm.
The stances for sure help because they add a whole layer of complexity versus something like Shadows, where I think it's probably going to be more like Odyssey in the sense that as long as you're the same level or above, you shouldn't have much of an issue tackling enemies.
No, for sure. But yeah, honestly, again, 6 hours into it, really enjoying it. And just again, Manny, to answer your question, I don't think it's because Shadow is coming out. I just think that I need like I opened up Ubisoft. I opened up what is it? It's called Ubisoft
Uplay.
Connect, and
Oh,
yeah, so I just saw like an ad for an Assassin's Creed game, and I was like, you know what? I kind of have
The
that
itch.
urge to play the itch, yeah, to play an Assassin's Creed game, but again, something that focuses more on the stealth. So again, so far, really, really enjoying it. And if I could also just have like just talk about another game that I played and I finished recently, it's Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and
Great game.
it's yeah, I it's such a great game. To me, one of the big thing one of the big things that I hope that it does is that it revitalizes adventure games. So to me, this title demonstrate that the adventure game, genre is far from dead. And again, it blends like classic elements with modern gameplay mechanics. And to me, as a fan of the movies, I mean, you could see it from the first scene. Like it's like a shot from shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark. The very first scene of the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, he's kind of he's like in a Peruvian temple, and he finds this idol, and there's like obviously mishap that happens. I love the fact that like you were able to replay that. um and I actually like the fact that it has great diverse gameplay mechanics. It's not just like going from one place to another, punching Nazis in the face, which is a lot of fun, by the way. Like it's really really rewarding to do that. But I like the fact that there's so
is Trump in
much.
the game? Not Trump. Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, no, no. But no, it's so joking aside, like I love the exploration, I love the puzzle solving, and the combat was fine. Like it's fine because it kind of reminded me of like the cheesiness of the movies. Like you could take a wrench and just start like bashing someone, and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like I guess Indiana Jones does that now. But I think that again, my favorite part of this game was really the puzzle solving, and some puzzles definitely were head scratchers. It's not a perfect game. It can be buggy in some places. but I'm a huge fan of adventure games, and I was skeptical at first. Playing a first person Indiana Jones game, like a first person action adventure game, I wasn't sure how it was going to translate. But yeah, I'm like really really happy. And I'm usually a completionist, but I stopped at like 90%. Because again, like I think you start exploring for like these little things, and because as I mentioned, the game being buggy, there was something that I could not get, so I just stopped playing it. But I'm curious to know what you also think about it, Taz, because I know that you also finished the game. Is there anything that I guess kind of stood out to you?
I think the biggest thing has to be that I played this game from start to finish, and this is a first-person game made by Machine Games, who are the developers of the Wolfenstein series. So I went from start to finish in this game, and not once did I use a gun. And you have more than one opportunity. So at any point, you can knock out one of the enemies, pick up their gun, and you can kind of start blasting. But not only is that the least effective way of doing things, because there's a very heavy emphasis of stealth on this game, which I found very surprising. That's not at all what I was expecting. But even just all the platforming, like it really shows that a platformer isn't necessarily doesn't always have to be a third person thing. Because when this game was first announced and there were no details on it, everyone assumed it was basically going to be Uncharted, but Indiana Jones, and rightfully so. Because what else is that really going to make you think of, right? It's Indiana Jones. It's a platformer. You're running around. You're solving puzzles. Nathan Drake. Nathan Drake is pretty much based on Indiana Jones in the first place, so that only made sense. But the fact that it's first person, there's so much platforming in the game, and it works really well, and it shows you that there's a space, especially in the AAA area, for a game like this, that you can actually make an action adventure game, but in the first person, not necessarily third, and it makes it just that much more immersive.
But so in Indiana, in Uncharted, you do mow down through quite a bit of people. I'm assuming that's not the case for Indiana Jones.
I mean, you're not mowing. No, so there's for sure the opportunity. I mean, I've definitely
Right.
seen
Yeah,
screenshots online of people that are like, well, I tried to steal this from the tent and it didn't work, and then enemies attacked, and then you just see like corpses on the floor. But it's you get the feeling that it's not where the game is steering you, and even when you're trying to combat enemies, all of the weapons have a breaking point. So you can only use a wrench for so many hits before it breaks. You have to find something else. So there's ways that the game limits you in these combat scenarios where it's clear that while it does want you to engage, because it is very slapstick with the way that you can kind of throw a bottle at an enemy and it breaks on his head, and then he falls back and goes through a plank of wood, falls into a pit, so on and so forth. But it's not that it's discouraged, but there's the game has a good way of steering you, like, yeah, okay, you could do this, but the real way is like, we kind of want you to go stealth, we kind of want you to limit your use of these things, or yeah, whatever, use this bat, but use it as a means of stealth so that other enemies don't see you, hide bodies, so on and so forth. So in the end, yeah, you want to mow down enemies, you can, but I think you're going to have a much better and just a lot more fulfilling of a time if you kind of play the game on its terms.
exactly. I don't know. I feel like games like that they're so rare. So I really hope that the developers they capitalize on this. I believe I think Microsoft had recently, there was an article saying that was it 4 million people have played this game. Now, granted, that could be someone turning on the game, playing it for 5 minutes, and then just kind of uninstalling it. But still, I think having it on Game Pass as well, there were a lot of eyes on it. So I just hope that a lot of people gave it a shot so that we can get a full on sequel for this. Because, and again, we do explore, I believe, four different worlds in this. So there's just so much potential for more open world exploration.
Well, if you're saying 4 million people played it, that's still more. Granted, so this is probably more people that played the last Dragon Age game. EA said it was something like 1
2
point,
million or something.
1.2,
Oh,
1.3 million players engaged, whatever that means. So I don't know if
yeah.
it's not sales. It could be
Yeah,
they played it through EA's subscription service or something else, but 3 months after release, if it's 1.3 million versus if 4 million people played the Indiana Jones game. Now, granted, that's on Game Pass, and there's probably a larger base than EA's service, but it's a Dragon Age game, right? There's lineage there. So I think that's very impressive.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed Dragon Age, and I wish I did better. But I'm thankful to know that I forgot who from the Dragon Age team, from EA's team, had said that like it's not the final chapter for Dragon Age. That they're still planning on making more titles for it.
I was gonna say, is that a segue to what you're playing?
No, actually, so I wasn't going to talk about Dragon Age because that's like, God, I finished that during the holidays. It's like I in a week, 100% of the game. No, but
Jeez.
the game I was going to mention was I started playing Ninja Gaiden 2. So there was the developer direct, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Nice
Um,
surprise.
and then yeah, there was a nice surprise that they kind of released like a remake version of it. And I'm going through it, and it plays just like a Ninja Gaiden game. It's They definitely toned down the difficulty compared to the first one. Maybe it's just I'm more familiar with the game now, the mechanics, the fighting, the dodging, the countering, and all that. Um, but I feel like it's lost some of its charm compared to the first game. Whereas there was a certain level of difficulty, for example, just trying to hunt down save points. Whereas now I feel like every 5 minutes there's a save point, and the chapters are also shorter from my perspective, and so I'm already like a third of the way done with the game in only a handful of hours. One thing that they decided to bring back, which I wasn't so happy about, was the missions with some of the alternative characters. So in this one, you play as Momiji and Ayane, and then also they brought back Rachel, and it really does kind of ruin the pace of the game. I find because it's just you're playing as Ria Hayabusa, you're going through his journey, and all of a sudden you're back in the village playing as Momiji trying to rescue a boy, and I'm just like, where's the connection there? Maybe it does a better job at building worlds. You get to find out some of the characters, but to me, it's like I bought this game just to play as Ryu, and
They definitely improved the secondary characters based on Ninja Gaiden 1, because there's this like two years ago, I want to say, I replayed Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 on Game Pass when they had the Master Collection come out. And when you're playing Ninja Gaiden 1 and you're playing as Ryu, and then a chapter hits and you're playing as Rachel, freaking grinds to a I cannot tell you
100%.
how much I hated playing as Rachel. Whenever those chapters came around, it was a struggle for me just not to put this game down and be like, you know what? I don't want to like she played like absolute crap, and it was just a slog, and it was just like, what do I got to do to finish this as quick as possible just to get back to playing as the actual main protagonist of this game.
Right.
Ninja Gaiden 2 though, yeah, you have to play as Rachel again as well as Ayane and Momiji, but at least like they play so much better. There's actual good combat. It's speedy, it's snappy, not like Rachel in the first game where it just sort of was
Right.
so slow and unlike Ryu, and it's fine. I guess they're trying to go for like a juxtaposition there, but she just sucked. See, it was not fun playing as her. It's not like when you're playing a game and there's that character that's quick and then there's a character that's the brute. This was just there's a character that's awesome and then there's a character that makes you want to throw the controller because it's the game's not fun anymore.
So I've never played the Ninja Gaiden games. Like I've seen you guys play them. I remember watching Taz play them a lot, and I remember Manny and his brother playing Ninja Gaiden. Were those characters always there in the original games? Like, did you have to play as those characters, or was this
Only
like added?
in Ninja Gaiden 1, you
You didn't have to play as Rachel.
I
Okay,
think
so in Ninja Gaiden 2,
so
did you have
in
to
Ninja
play?
Well,
Gaiden
so in
1, in Ninja Gaiden 1, the original release, I don't think you played Rachel. I think they added
You did
her
not.
in Sigma or Black, whichever version.
Yes.
But in Ninja Gaiden 2 from the get-go, you have to there's chapters where you play as Momiji and Ayane as well as
Mhm.
Ryu.
And then the other question I have is like, again, Manny, you were much younger when you played the original Ninja Gaiden 2, right? When it came out on the Xbox.
Yeah.
And now you're playing it and you talked about, a little bit about the difficulty level. Is it just because you were younger so you remembered it being harder than it actually was? Or
So well, I recently finished the first one as well. I went back and I played the first one a year or two ago. It's not that much far off from Taz. I'm not sure if there was a difference between Black Sigma or like the original game, but in terms of difficulty, I found it much harder as a kid. But then I was playing it as an adult, and I was like, all right, it's hard. Like you can't just like breeze through it randomly mashing your buttons, but it's like it's doable. And I finished the game without much difficulty. Um,
Mm.
but it's not to say that like just because I was younger, the game was harder automatically. Like even in the second one, you can't just blindly go through it. It's like you have, for some of the bosses especially, you have to learn patterns, you have to learn their kind of mechanics. There is skill involved with dodging and parrying and all that stuff, and you can't just like spam your special scrolls or special abilities, because often enough they will dodge them, they will block them, and or sometimes they even have counters for them.
And that's why it's going to be an interesting conversation when we get to the developer direct about how, spoiler alert, Ninja Gaiden 4, I'm kind of eager to see how this new game is going to build upon the legacy of the predecessors. Like, you know, are they are they going to keep, I guess, the signature Ninja Gaiden game, or is it going to be
Oh, well, I
more like, are they
mean,
going to open it up to people that are new to the series? And but we can talk about that, in due time. But I think I'd be interested to hear about, what you guys think. And again, as someone that is an outsider, I also have my own opinion about the game and what they should do. So I think it should be a good conversation. But besides
I
that, like, do you feel like, are you almost, or like at the end? I know a lot of
Well, so
people
that's the
complain
thing I was
about
going
the
to mention. I
camera.
feel like I could have. I've heard some people talk about the camera. It is not ideal. It does kind of put you in certain angles are less than favorable, but you move around. You kind of like you find to deal with it, because it's not a deal breaker for me. It's like it's not ideal, but it doesn't break the game, if that makes sense. It's still very much playable. It's still very much enjoyable. And if you want to play a Team Ninja game, it doesn't stop you from playing it. But I feel like I could have finished the game by now. However, I started playing, and I'm just playing back the meme from South Park with Butters and Cartman with the World of Warcraft episode. I started playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure that just came out on the Switch 2 days ago. And boys, let me tell you,
Game of the year.
it's it's. I didn't mention anything about this ahead of time because I wanted to get your reactions on the podcast.
I mean, we're
But it's so
speechless.
much fun.
Wow.
It's genuinely so much. It's basically Animal Crossing with Stardew Valley elements, but with some newer characters. So you have the Hello Kitty, My Melody, Choco Cat, Tuxedo Sam, and all these characters.
ah, fuck, Tuxedo Sam.
He's there.
Oh, there's the first F bomb.
um, no, I don't like. It's just a very wholesome, cute, relaxing game.
Okay.
There's merit in playing it every single day, because the way to progress through the game to unlock some of the quests, you have to advance your friendship with all these characters. But there's a daily limit to how many gifts you can give to each person, each friend. It does feel like a mobile game just because it did release on Apple Arcade first, and then they brought it to PC and PC just a few days ago.
Is it a free to play on PC as well?
No, it's like $50 Canadian.
You paid $50 for this game?
I did. I'm playing with my girlfriend. We're both enjoying it.
So there's no
But
microtransactions or anything then,
None.
I assume,
Yes.
right?
but if
Yes.
it's like Animal Crossing, just with like the Hello Kitty, slapped on top, I can see the
Yeah.
appeal of it. Like
Yeah,
Animal
there's plenty
Crossing
of
was
things
one
to
of the
craft. There's
biggest.
plenty of
Yeah.
things to collect. There's plenty of furniture, like clothes and all that stuff, and like everything you want to do in the game involves some sort of gathering and crafting. And go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. Just because you mentioned that it feels like a mobile game. Now, when someone says mobile game, to me, it always goes back to, the slow pace of it, the daily progression, stuff that you have to do that kind of makes it very mindless and tedious.
All right, keep in mind
Does it suffer from
in
that?
this case, mobile game, it was an Apple Arcade game. And Apple Arcade games don't have microtransactions and all that other stuff.
Right. So when I mean mobile game, I don't mean it with some of the negative connotation that comes with quote unquote mobile games. This is more of the sense like you're kind of capped to how much you can progress through the game with a daily timer. And apparently, if you do mess around with your Switch's internal clock in order to kind of progress, it does mess with the same save in a really bad way. I haven't tested it because I don't want to mess up my save. But what was surprising the most with this game is that they have dungeons, puzzle dungeons. And so you find this room and you have to like um, it's kind of like a 3D platformer puzzle kind of situation where you have to like jump in a certain way, or like there's falling tiles and all that stuff, and there's a reward at the end of it. And it's fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it seems like a
It's a
chill,
very cozy
relaxing
game,
sim.
especially
All
during
right.
this time of the year, like when it's -15 outside and we're all wearing hoodies.
Listen, you haven't
It's what
convinced
you want to play.
us. We're not gonna spend $50, but
I mean,
hey,
look,
I'm happy that you're enjoying it.
I when I got my phone, they gave me a free. Well, it came with like a 3 month trial of Apple Arcade, and I kept hearing about this game, so I did download it. Uh, Hold on,
Whoa,
hold on.
Whoa,
the
whoa.
This is like last year or before that.
Okay,
Anyways,
it did come out a year
I
ago.
can't
Yeah.
say I remember anything. I must have played like 10 minutes and I was like, yeah, not for me, and I just got rid of it.
You are also the type of person that doesn't really play a lot of games on your phone, though.
Well, that's it. You can give me the best mobile game ever. I don't play on my phone. The only thing I do on my phone these days is use Moonlight to stream games from my PC, but I don't play except for one game that I've been playing for years, and that is 8 Ball Pool, and that's it. Aside from that, any mobile game I will not play on my phone. I just
I
Too
mean, the
bad. Too bad your
Pokemon.
skills on the app doesn't translate to real life. So
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
if only.
Well, there's the Pokemon trading card game that we're playing, but I guess
Yeah,
that's
but
not
even that,
really.
I'm starting to like teeter off of it now, kind of. It's just,
Yeah.
every I get 2 packs a day that I can open, and you know what I mean. It's just two more disappointments on top of the rest of my day. So like, it's just a guy can,
This has become a very therapeutic episode of
you
Not
know,
Code High Score.
a guy can only take so many Manchinos before he's like, "All right, man, I gotta get going." I
Oh
I don't.
man.
I genuinely look forward to it's opening the packs, because even if I don't get anything, well, I'm just like, it's what I was expecting. But when I get that EX, when I get that I've never gotten a gold border, but whatever, like those cards that we can go into, it's like it's a small win.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
They released that new expansion. What is it this week? That just came out. 3 days
Yeah.
in, I'm like getting duplicates already. I'm like, yo, this, what the hell, man?
But circling back on Hello Kitty, yeah, I was not expecting that. So you definitely caught me by
Yeah,
surprise. But the fact that honestly you get to enjoy it with your partner, and the fact that it I've been I looked a little bit while you were talking about it, but it does seem like Animal Crossing. So I can see the appeal of it, right? Like I mean, Hello Kitty is huge. So
yeah. It's
you know,
honestly in in every way, shape, or form, it feels like an improved version of Animal Crossing. It doesn't have all the same features, but it does have a lot of features that I wish Animal Crossing had.
mm,
And it's just if anything, it gets me excited for the next Animal Crossing that eventually will come out on the Switch, because they will, like, let's be honest,
yeah, that's
judging how well
definitely gonna be
the first one did.
yeah.
And what about you, Taz? What are you playing?
I am, God, what am I like? 50, close to 60 hours into Metaphor, Refantasio. I mean, honest, I don't know what else I could say that already hasn't been said about this game. Just absolutely incredible. If you like the Persona games, there is zero reason for you not to go check this out, unless you're just super into the high school setting and you don't want to go into the fantasy aspect of it. But it's not just the setting. I mean, there's definitely differences in the way that the game plays. You're not just it's not like the demon Pokemon kind of aspect of Persona, where after a battle you can like capture that creature and have it become your new persona. This is sort of, there's like a tree of archetypes is what they're called, that you unlock, and then the basis of their unlock is your relationships with certain people, how far they're along, and one of them has a certain set of skills, and so you have to kind of think about what you want to equip before you go into certain battles. The fights themselves, it's almost like they just sort of optimized the fight system a little bit, so you're never going through menus or anything in a battle. It's just boom, battle starts. Okay, you press this button, it gives you your list of skills. You choose a skill, he does it. You do synthesis, which is a team attack. You do that. It's just everything is very very purposeful. Yes, deep.
So in Persona, because you sent like the Persona system, it's an archetype and you develop it. In the other games, Persona 3 and 5, for instance, you combine different personas to kind of make new ones. Is there a similar system in this,
So
or is
you're
it just
not
purely everyone's?
you're not combining archetypes. So the thing with this is, so first thing in Persona games, only the protagonist, is, if I remember correctly, is the only one that can switch
Yes.
personas. That's like what makes him special. In this game, you have the archetype tree that you unlock as you progress through the game. So you unlock more and more archetypes. Anyone can equip any archetype. Now,
Oh, interesting.
there are definitely some characters that are better suited to certain archetypes based on their stats, like magic and agility and all that. So, this, so teammate X might be better off as a mage than if you were to make them a healer, let's say, or something like that. But all that to say, every character can be whichever archetype. And then the other thing is you have what's called inherited skills. So I think you start off with like one. So basically, any of the archetypes that you've unlocked for your character, when you switch to another archetype, you can choose to inherit a skill from any of the archetypes you've already unlocked. So if I have a mage, so if I've unlocked mage, healer, warrior, and then I decide to equip him with the warrior archetype, I can give him an inherited skill from the healer and he can have a healing spell. Or I can give him a spell from the mage and he can have whatever, fireball or something like that. And then as you progress, you get to a maximum of, I think, 4 inherited skills.
I have a question for you because this is not obviously, I've never played Persona. I should probably get on that eventually. What I did read about this game is the character relationships, and I could have completely misread, but you know how do you find the process of building relationships with other characters, like, and do you feel like the dialogue choices that you're given actually affect these bonds, or is that just kind of like a small thing that they added? Like, do you feel like it's like a key aspect of the game?
I mean, the bonds are always the basis of every Persona game. So there's no way that you can do certain things without building these bonds, and the game will make you do that. And in terms of dialogue choices, some of them might affect, let's say, the amount of the bond increase in that interaction, but you're never gonna get like nothing out of it. You might just get, let's say, 4 out of 5 stars, quote unquote, in that interaction versus like 5 out of 5. But those bonds are also important because it's not just a superficial thing. It's not just like a story. Oh, okay, I want to know what this guy's history is or become friends with him for so and so reason. It's because those bonds directly affect your skills as well. So, one of your teammates, for example, Stroll, he's by default, he's the warrior archetype. But then the higher your skill with him, your bond with him, then you can unlock the next level of that archetype once your bond reaches a certain level. And that gives you higher, so it gives you more or less the same skill set, but a higher damage, maybe certain different support skills. But there's certain skills and certain builds that you can only achieve in this game if you get to certain levels of a bond with certain characters. And I'm pretty sure there is a way to sort of make the perfect run where you have the perfect bond with everyone.
Nice.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to achieve that necessarily, but I also already have a good thing going. Depends on what you want to concentrate on. Um,
uh
So the
s-
other games, in 3 you shoot yourself in the head.
yeah,
In 5 you rip off your mask very painfully.
yeah.
How do you activate your persona in this?
You reach into your chest and you rip your heart out.
Of course, very
nice.
very on brand.
But your heart, it's
uh
like a mechanical heart. It's not like an organ. It looks almost more like a heart engine kind of thing. It's pretty cool.
yeah. And I know that, you're only like 50 hours into the game and it could be like a recency bias thing, but just in terms of like this series, where does this game classify for you? Like, where is it in the rankings? Is it still too early
Oh no, it's number
to
one.
decide?
It's been number one
Really?
for a while,
Oh
and if
wow.
only because I enjoy the fantasy setting a lot more than I enjoy the high school setting. Plain, I'm just every Persona game playing like high school kids and these like high school problems and high school bonds. Like after a while, I'm just sort of like I wouldn't mind something different, maybe a little more on the mature end, and that's
Mm.
exactly what you're getting with your teammates here. Um, Kudos to Atlas for the fact that there's not one single squad member that I find irritating or annoying. There's maybe some that I care for less than others, but that's maybe more of a product of the fact that you get them so much later on in the game, so you haven't had like 40 hours worth of build of a relationship to get to them. You know what I mean? But that said, like they're all great, and I want to see all of their stories through if I can, depending on if the game allows, because every Persona game, it goes day by day, and there's a calendar and there's deadlines for certain missions, and so I don't think I necessarily optimally may have spent some of the time that I had between missions, but we'll see how that goes.
You see, this
That's
is what
part of
I
the experience, right? People tend to replay the game and tend to optimize the run as much as possible to maximize their bonds.
yeah, I was gonna say like that's what I really appreciate about this podcast because we go from Assassin's Creed to Hello Kitty to Metaphor. I mean, we're all playing different types of games,
Well,
and
the other game that I'm playing that I think might be more interesting to talk about, because everyone's already spoken about Persona, Rusty's retirement. It's
Hmm.
an idle farming game, and it's just
Oh,
Oh, that's the one that's on your computer?
so the whole game is, it's like a strip, and it's docked at the bottom of your monitor. And so right now I actually still have it running. It's on my second monitor over here. It's docked at the bottom, so I still have like Discord, and you still see your wallpaper and your desktop and all that. It's just like it's a little farming game that is running, and every now and again I'll go and I'll see how my crops are doing and what needs tweaking and what needs building, and you know,
hmm.
it's like a star. It's I would love to say that's a Stardew Valley light, but it's like there's so much to Stardew Valley that it's almost I don't want to make that comparison, because it is in a sense wrong. I think the only thing they have in common is that they're both farming games, because you're not actively doing any farming, right? You're putting down a plot of land and you're telling them, okay, now this is what I want you to plant here. And then there's a guy named Rusty that's on this screen, and he goes around and he does the planting and he does the watering, and you just watch over it. And then every now and again, with the money that you get, you build other plots of land. You can build robots that help with the watering, that help with crop picking. And then you unlock more and more different kinds of crops, and then eventually you can have like a beehive going, and then you give them flour to produce like nectar and stuff like that. And it's just, there's a lot
Do you
to
not
it.
find that distracting when you're working at all?
No, because it's running, and then every now and again I'll take a look. Oh, okay, that needs doing. Click, 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 and then I'm back, and then I'm just sort of making my farming life happen on one end, and I'm just doing what I need to on the other.
So this is not a thing where you turn off the game like so when you turn off the game like nothing happens? Like do you have to have the game running
Oh
for
yeah, you have to
cuz
have
it
it running. It's not like a game that runs in real time. I mean, the only thing that runs in
okay,
real time is that, crops, every crop has a certain grow time. It has a certain watering cycle and whatever, which is all
got
taken
it.
care of by the game. So if I'm planting, let's say, berries, then, one harvest of this kind of berry happens every 20 minutes. But
Mm.
aside from that, if I'm not playing the game, then that whole world is paused.
Is this a single player only?
Yeah. It's like a
Okay,
six
got it.
dollar game. It's not even like it's crazy expensive, and it's just so fun to have it running, and you just kind of see your farm progressing as you unlock bigger and bigger plots of land, and then you're just scrolling like left to right on this thing, and it seems a bit ridiculous. And I didn't think I would really go for an idle game, let alone an idle farming game, but honestly, I'd like to come back and just see how things are progressing and just make my little tweaks here and there, and then just go on with my day.
This is see it's moments like these where I appreciate that we're all on the same Steam family. You know, plan or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I mean, it sounds cool. It sounds like
In
something that I
uh,
can definitely just kind
in
of
case Gabe's
shut my
in case
brain off.
Gabe's watching, we're all in the same house. These are just three different rooms.
Yeah, if ever
We're
we blow
all
up,
we're all
Man,
co-raising my daughter. please
Christ.
don't please don't disband our Steam family.
uh,
All right, so let's move on to the first topic that we'd like to talk about today, which
yes.
is the Xbox Developer. I couldn't think of a segue. I tried, but the Xbox Developer Direct. And
Is that a
so
goose on that
they,
bag behind you?
yes, it is. I
Nice.
love that bag so much. So I'm not sure if this was like they talked about it ahead of time, but I feel like it came out of nowhere,
I
and
messaged
they
you guys like
dropped.
the morning of, and I'm like, by the way, there's an Xbox developer thing
Yeah,
going on at 1 p.m. And man, I mean, I think all of us were pretty happy to tune in and see it kind of live. I
yeah.
think we all got the chance to
They showcased 4 games that are all coming out this year. It was a pretty nice surprise.
yeah,
The first one they had talked about was Ninja Gaiden 4 plus Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, but I think we're going to focus on 4. Um, the fact that it's, first of all, being co-developed by Platinum Game, it's your traditional Ninja Gaiden game, but this time instead of Ryu Hayabusa being your main protagonist, you have a secondary protagonist called Yakumo, who's part of the Raven Clan, and so you're going to be playing as both of those characters, and it almost feels kind of like Halo. Was it Halo 4? No, Halo 5. When you have like Locke versus Master Chief, you kind of have that rivalry going between these two main
Didn't
protagonists.
people hate Halo
Um,
5 though?
yeah, they do. Well, it was such a miss. Like if you see the trailers and like the campaign that they had rolled out for it and what the game actually was, it was just
yeah.
there were two very different things. Like story, gameplay, all of that aside.
Coming from, again, like, and this is something that I was kind of curious to hear about you guys, because I've never, like I said, actually played a Ninja Gaiden game. I've probably like maybe done like a level or two or something like that, but from beginning to end, definitely did not do that. So, as someone that's on the outside looking in and is still interested to maybe try it for the first time, I hope that they can kind of balance tradition and innovation. And what I mean by that is like the challenge is always to like maintain like this series, like let's say for example like the signature difficulty. But to me, I would also like for them to introduce like modern gameplay enhancements, but maybe do something to appeal to the broader audience. Do you feel like there's a world that might actually be a possibility where they might like tone down on the difficulty to invite more users to come in,
Why would they need
or
to
is this
tone
kind of like a
down?
platinum?
Why would they need to tone down on the difficulty in a world where Elden Ring is the fucking one of the best-selling games
That is true.
in the last
I don't
generation, you know?
in terms of difficulty, I don't think it's as hard as it might come across
Yeah.
because like the first one was hard, but
Hmm.
it's definitely gone down over the years, over the iterations.
I
Okay.
think it's gonna
And
be. I
so,
And
think it's a
and for
challenging
like
game. I don't think it's a hard game, and I definitely
yeah.
don't think it's going to be as difficult as something like a Souls game because I don't think that's what they're going for. This is just a pure action game, which I think is great because you don't really see a lot of these come out anymore. You know, everything these days that comes out is basically a Souls like, and it's all the difficulty and this and that.
basically,
But you know, there's a difference between like soul crushing difficulty and just a good challenge. And Ninja Gaiden to me has
hmm
always been a good challenge, and I hope that's what they keep it as. You know, for people that want that crazy difficulty in the Souls like, jack up the difficulty, give them something else.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you know,
Even like 2 had like 4 different difficulty settings, and I'm playing on the easiest one, which is
Hmm.
like their normal, and
and Ninja
it's fun,
then
it's doable.
Okay.
It's
you might say it was challenging, but Ninja Gaiden's always had a certain level of accessibility. Like even Ninja Gaiden 1, after a certain number of deaths, let's say in the same area, the game would ask you, do you want to just fucking lower the difficulty?
so that was in Black. That wasn't in the original Ninja Gaiden
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
Granted, they kind
So,
of made fun of you for it because that difficulty was called Ninja Dog, but you know, it was still on
and
offer.
Yeah.
so as like two guys that are, I mean, I'm assuming that you guys are looking forward to playing Ninja Gaiden 4, especially considering that's going to be on Game Pass. But as fans of the series, what are some of your expectations? Like, what are you guys hoping that this series introduces to kind of maybe take like the next step? Like, are you like, will you be satisfied if they just kind of refine the combat system? Do you want the narrative to be expanded a little bit? Like, what is it like? What is your expectations of this game, and what is something that's going to be like, this is necessary for this game to like evolve?
So part of it is it does seem like they're doing some level of world building, like they are introducing different clans, different characters. So it adds to this world that's already been like developed with a few games already. But what I'm kind of excited to see is that they're finding new ways to kind of traverse. And so something that they've shown in the gameplay was because of what's going around Tokyo, it's like this reign of dark rot or whatever they called it. It's causing Tokyo to kind of warp and collapse. You're grinding away on rails and like around buildings and stuff to traverse, and you're also swinging around. So it adds a certain level of traversal that hasn't been done in Ninja Gaiden before. Is it revolutionary? No, but does it seem fun as hell? Yeah, of course.
I'm
All
okay with
right,
just
sounds
another
good.
Ninja Gaiden. I don't think they necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. What Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2, they played phenomenally. They still play great. I think it's one
Hmm.
of the few games from that generation that you could go and not even the remaster for Black that they released, but just go back and play the original Ninja Gaiden 2 and you can still have a fantastic time. Sure, optimize the camera, put in a few of the modern sensibilities that we've come to expect, but aside from that, man, keep the action the way that it was. You don't necessarily need to cater to anyone other than who you were catering to in the first place. Like there's
One thing I'm looking forward to is the 1v1 battles against bosses or like
Oh yeah.
mini bosses or like big tier boss enemies. Um, it's like they're not like your traditional like grunt that you're gonna face as you're like, going around the game. It's they block, they counter, they look at your patterns. They're fun and challenging enemies to go against.
yeah. Like I just hope that
And
with they're making this, they look at the previous Ninja Gaiden games, maybe not three, look at one and two, and be like, yeah, you know what? Let's take everything we got right, refine it, not necessarily try to reinvent the wheel, like I said, and just
Hmm.
bring that into the modern day. I don't need you guys to do anything more. Now that said, is these days is this a game that I would go ahead and pay $80 for? I don't know, because I
That's the
mean, because if
question.
you look at a Ninja Gaiden game, how long could this game possibly be, and what more could they possibly provide than just basically once you've done the story mode and you've optimized your run through, you're done, right? It's
Mm.
I think a lot of people are going to play this because it's coming on Game Pass. I don't necessarily know
yeah,
if Ninja Gaiden is a game these days that a ton of people are going to be paying $80 for, which is why I don't think that they need to do anything that's going to end up making it that this game costs hundreds of millions and then it doesn't,
Hmm.
reach those sales expectations like a lot of companies these days tend to not do, and then it's a series that's dead again.
yeah. Like out of all the games that they showcased in this direct, there's two of them I really want to play, and then one of them I'm willing to buy them day one, and that's if you guys are okay if we move on to the next game
Sure.
unless
Yeah.
something else needs to be said. That's Expedition 33.
Hell yeah.
That's the one I'm like the most cautious on. I think it looks really good, but
Really?
it's one of those games that I mean we've all been there before, man. A game looks amazing, the trailers are fantastic. You think it's gonna be the greatest thing, and then it comes out and it's it might not be bad, but it might not be that mind blowing thing that necessarily it seems to
My
be.
fingers are crossed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
case, because it's part of your draft. Obviously, you want it to do well, but I don't know. I look at this game and I want it to do well. I wouldn't be surprised if it's getting, I don't think it'll be in the 90s or anything. I think it'll get 80s
I
and
think
it'll
it
get
might.
praise.
I don't
And
know.
even if it is in the 90s, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But then if it comes out and people are like not as hot on it as they are prior to release for so and so reason because they finally got to play it, that wouldn't surprise me either.
But there's just so much of it that they've shown, and there's so much of it I want to love and play.
I
You
mean,
know.
they have an
um,
opportunity here because the way that I look
yeah.
at this game and the way that it plays and the kind of RPG that it is and the battle system and everything, I'm like, this is what the biggest Final Fantasy nerds wish Square would make right now instead of a game like Final Fantasy
Mm,
16. You know, so
Yeah.
if you actually deliver on what this game is, then you could basically potentially take that crowd away from Square for the time being until they hopefully come to their senses and make an actual RPG again, not something like a Devil May Cry with kaiju's. But
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about like games like Sea of Stars and like Mario and Luigi Adventure, like the RPGs that have
mhm.
traditional RPGs with like real time action events. That personally, because like you, Taz, I know you play a lot of Final Fantasy. I or like even RPGs like Dragon Quest. I for my life can't have my attention kept in this game for too long. And these games do such a good job at like making sure like you're constantly doing something. You're well rewarded in this game for timing all your attacks, even when you're defending. And that that engagement is personally what I'm looking for in this. Never mind the story and the music and the characters, how great they look. It's just the combat alone and how beautiful it looks. I'm just like, I'm excited. I want to play
yeah,
this.
but it's
Yeah,
see,
but I was gonna.
you're telling me that you can't keep up with these games, but here's the thing, right? If it's just if what if it's the same combat but flashier? Then is that kind of what you're looking for?
Not necessarily. You think look at games like Sea of Stars. It rewarded you so well for mastering the timing of all your attacks.
So you're okay. So you're
and
looking for something.
that itself is very
So you're looking
rewarding.
for something outside of a static turn-based system.
Yes,
Yeah, he's looking
yes,
for immersion and engagement. Like, I mean, I think didn't they describe it as like reactive turn-based combat,
yes.
right? So again, like yeah, so like lots of focus on dodging, parrying, and like countering. To me it looks pretty cool. Like I like the fact that it's like set in a dark fantasy world like in France. The characters also looked really interesting. Like I like the artistic direction that they kind of took this game in, and the fact that you can kind of craft a lot of unique builds to your characters. I think that also sounds pretty cool. I'm not the biggest fan of like turn based, so like the fact that like they kind of sold this as a reactive turn base might push me to try it out. But you know to be honest with you, I didn't know anything about this game, and when I saw this trailer, it really did kind of like I was rooting for them, right? Because they also seem to be like a small publishing company and just like a small group of developers,
I don't know if
right?
you.
Like, wasn't it like one dude
They
that
got
had this
Microsoft
idea?
backing them up,
Yeah,
Well, I
so
mean, I don't
I'm
know.
not sure if
I
they're
don't know if
small
you
anymore.
guys. I don't know if you guys read, but there's a movie in the works already,
that's crazy. And also like the voice
For Expedition
casting.
33.
which is crazy
Yeah, like
considering the game hasn't
yeah,
actually released. So
yeah, and
that's either does that show like faith in the game,
yeah, I hope
or is
so. I
this,
mean,
you
I
know what
think
I
so.
mean,
Well,
or is
I
it just
mean,
them sort of jumping the gun,
ha-
right? Because
if it,
what if this is like not a
as
Concord
a
situation, obviously, because it's not like they can unrelease this game. But what if it just comes out? No, but what if it just
rest
come?
in
What
peace.
if it comes out and let's say in the worst case, and let's be generous, it's a good game, but it fizzles. Then what?
You know what? It's a new IP, man. Like I mean, I will always support like a good new IP. So like I'm rooting for this game. It looks to be something different, and I completely forgot to mention the fact that like the voice cast, the some of the people that they got in, like Andy Serkis is there. He's gonna be lending his voice,
Yeah, they got Ben
uh,
Starr.
for, uh, yeah, exactly, right? Like Charlie Cox. So like I just think that and like let's not forget it's a team of like 30 people that's like making this and like Microsoft is backing them up. So yeah, like I feel like they're going all in, but so far, man, like it's
Has to answer your question. Yes, there's a lot writing on this, especially now that there's a movies in the work already. But I think with the what we've seen so far, do you think that it won't do well at the very least?
I mean, look, it's hard to say, right? Because I look at this game and it's like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if it came out and it showed very well in trailers and this and that, but then once you're actually playing it and you get into the nitty gritty of the combat system and the
Mm-hmm.
sort of the gameplay loop, that we are like, okay, like it's cool, it's good, but you know,
mm,
I don't. It wouldn't surprise me if it's nines. It wouldn't surprise me if it's sevens. It wouldn't surprise me if it's sixes.
Right.
okay.
So
Obviously,
okay.
I wanted to
So
do
we
well.
talked about the gameplay, but yes, the thing that compels me more than the gameplay itself is the story. If there is to be a movie made about this game, it makes sense because it does have a very interesting setting. So for those that have no idea what the hell we're talking about, in this world, basically, there's I forgot what they're calling it, like the painter, the paintress, whatever. So,
Paintress.
anyways, there's a paintress. There's a monolith that comes up with the number, and so every year the paintress will get up, erase the number, and then put a one digit lower number. What that does is everyone who's that age or older dies, and so every year there's an expedition that's sent in order to kind of stop this. And so this time around it follows Expedition 33 because on the monolith it's 34 or 33 now, and so it's kind of like humanity's last hope. And like what makes this very interesting as well, it's like some of these characters, it's like no one's really good and evil. It's just people are there. They're kind of dealing with this existential threat while dealing with their own like mortality or their own like personal issues. And like I think it makes for very interesting writing.
I mean, the story very interesting, right? So that definitely
Yes.
draws me in. You know, it's just I don't know. I'm not doing a good job explaining it because even to myself, I don't know why. But I look at this game and I'm just like, I really want it to do well because it's a new IP and that's great because these days everything is, it's got to be
Mm-hmm.
a franchise, right? But I don't know, man. There's something about it where I look and I'm like, it's
That's
showing very well, and maybe that's just me being cautious because I definitely want it to do very well, but I'm also preparing for the inevitable that we've seen so many times before, where a game looks so great, and then it comes out and it's just sort of, you see the reviews and you're like, yo, what the hell is this? What happened? Because
Do,
it's
It's
you've been
fair
too.
because, but it's fair because I mean I understand. It's like it's all style but no substance. Is that kind of where you're
maybe
going?
combat looks very
Yeah.
flashy and it looks really cool, and yes, the
Yeah.
UI and what they have shown of the combat looks great. But now when you're actually
That's
playing, but
fair.
when you're actually playing the game and you're on, combat number 50, and you've done it
Hmm.
49 times previous, is it still engaging? Is there still stuff in place that makes that progression, worth it, that makes the battles feel good every single time? Or are there things in play and that they do a good enough job with that? Because, yeah, it's a good voice cast, yeah, it's a great story, cool,
Hmm.
I'm not doubting that at all. If this was a
I mean, I
movie,
can
I would be
understand you being a
curious,
bit.
but it's just purely
Yeah,
from a game perspective.
I can understand you being a bit jaded from like we've all been hurt from past experience with games. Like to name a few, like Mass Effect Andromeda.
We don't we
Uh,
Even
don't
Destiny,
Anthem,
I've been burned multiple
Anthem.
times.
Let's not forget.
Anthem,
Yeah.
sure, yeah, and like, um, but the things that they did show, like I, as much as I want to jump into this blindly and just be like,
Hmm.
like take my money, I will like have a cool head about this. But regarding the gameplay and to kind of like keep the loop refreshing, they did explain that like there's for every character they're gonna have their own 20 unique skills in a skill tree, and then you get to choose between hundreds of passive effects for every single character, and that's on top of like what the passive effects your weapon or armor are going to give you. So I like to believe that there's going to be a certain level of unique playthrough that
I
you
mean,
could
look, the
have.
best way I can describe my outlook on this game is hoping for a 9, bracing for a 7, Like,
It's a very, very good way to
that's
put
it.
that.
Which I think should be
All
a
right.
philosophy for really any game release coming out. But
Yeah.
Unless it's a Zelda game, then it has to be a 9 or 10.
if it's anything
Hey, do you
under a
mind if I
9, it's a
talk about
failure.
do you mind if we talk a little bit about Doom? Because I'm actually excited about that game. I mean, I don't know if you guys are, even remotely care, because it's Doom. It's heavy metal and it's hell and it's just shooting a bunch of like demonic creatures. But I kind of like the fact that they're shifting the franchise to like a more medieval setting. We're talking about like arcane magic in there, and
Dude, I'm
from
not sure. I'm not sure if you saw one of the guns. It was like a skull
The
crusher or
the
yeah,
something. It's
skull
like there's a skull that
shrapnel.
keeps.
I saw that.
yeah.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I saw that and I was like, I'm sold. Cause dude,
It
Doom 2016, amazing. Loved it. Played it, I think twice. Finished it. Like great, great. Just adrenaline fueled first person shooter. You go.
Mm.
There's not even any reloading in this game. That's so crazy. You just go and you just shoot and you bash heads in to regain health and so on and so forth. Eternal, I wasn't crazy about it. I wasn't a big fan of the platforming, and just between the platforming and the overall control scheme that they had and all the different skills and then just the overall speed
Mhm.
of the gameplay, I kind of was like, I'm having trouble keeping up and I'm not having as good of a time. Based on the gameplay that they showed for this, it seems like they've kind of slowed down the game a little bit. There's not as big of an emphasis on platforming, which I think is the feedback that they got from a lot of people that played Eternals, that they weren't too crazy about it. So I think they took that to heart. That's great. Loving the new setting, love the new weapons, the shield, chainsaw shield. I mean, like,
The shield saw, yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
amazing the fact that you have melee weapons, swords, the mace, along with the guns. That skull shrapnel gun, like that skull shrapnel gun, is
The
it's such
flail.
a
Yeah.
badass idea for a weapon. You know,
Even the animation. So like for those of you listening, it's like you see a skull on the gun, and then as you're shooting there's more and more skulls that keep like you keep throwing it in there, but like as the skulls are being crushed, they're being shot out to the enemies, and it looks really gruesome but really sick at the same
like
time.
that's amazing. And then there's the giant Doom mech battling the demon, kaiju-sized demon, and then there's like the
And your gun
levels.
gatling cybernetic
Yeah,
dragon.
and like you're flying on dragons and stuff, and it's like, yeah, they really just kind of were. They just threw everything at this game, and it looks amazing, and no doubts that it's gonna be great. Because I mean, Doom. 2016 was great. Eternal, despite
Hmm.
my reservations with it, reviewed very well. Not a lot of people did like it, and the core gameplay loop in and of itself, the shooting, which is what the Doom game's all about, was fantastic. This game is going to be great. That's it. Nothing more to say with me on that. It's going to come out and it's going to rock hard.
I see what you did there. Rock hard.
Well, Jazz, did you have something else to mention about
Oh
it?
no, I mean, I think Taz, made some good points. I think for me, again, it's the fact that they talked about it's gonna be also more narrative driven. I'm very very curious about where they're
Like for
gonna
a
take
Dune
the game.
game, it's
Yeah,
very surprising that that's what they're going
yeah,
with.
exactly. And again, like just the large scale battles. I'm like day one. I'm like looking forward to this
Yeah.
for sure.
One thing I'm very curious about as well is they talked about what the shield saw. They said that you can block, throw, parry with it, and deflect, but it's all done from one input. Which I understand that like from a gaming perspective, it's maybe not to overwhelm the player with too
Mm.
many like different button combinations. But I'm curious to know how that actually plays, and if it's ever going to misregister something you're trying to do. So curious about that.
I think it'll be very contextual because I'm pretty sure one of them is going to be, for example, I mean, there's the blocking, there's the throwing, and then
Yes.
there's probably the finisher, which the finisher really only happens when you press it when I believe the enemy is glowing, and then you go towards them and you press melee, and it decides to, and then you go into this animation where you do like a fatality of sorts, and that kind of tends to reload your ammo or your health, depending. But I think the
Right. Well,
cues,
so like
I think
blocking
the
and
cues are going to be
yeah,
clear in where they tell you, like you'll recognize the cues that are going to tell you what your weapon is going to be doing in what context. But I mean, yeah, I
yeah.
guess we'll
Well,
see.
so like things like parrying and deflect, I can understand if it's like if enemies about to attack you, if they're like there's a projectile coming at you, but it's maybe more like between blocking and throwing.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm curious to
I
unless it's
believe
just like
they'll do a good job.
maybe okay. All right.
And there's a final game,
Uh,
South of Midnight, right?
yes, South of Midnight by Compulsion Games.
Is that the
Here in
game
Montreal.
where you were like lukewarm about, or
I did want to talk about this before, just because I personally am lukewarm about this,
okay?
but
I mean,
we're saving it for last. So
so am I. I'm a little lukewarm about it. Again, I think it was a very long, feature too. I remember, and at first I was excited, but then I was like not really sure. The combat abilities sound pretty cool, and it does seem like there's going to be a lot of like traversals and puzzle solving in this. I believe it's like
yes,
she has like this weaving ability, right? For like
yes,
for
they
the
call her a weaver. For context, this is a third-person action adventure game
yeah.
focusing on like southern folklore, and then you're exploring like various southern gothic themes with a dark fantasy twist.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to really expect from this game. I think like I wouldn't be surprised if it gets like sevens. It's cool that it's from a developer that's based in Montreal. But it just I kind of felt meh about it.
That's it. I was curious about like if anything, the fact that it's a Game Pass game, I might give it a shot just because I'm curious about that kind of
Man, I
folklore.
think I'm a little hotter on
Um,
this game than both of you are. I don't know. I'm definitely
oh,
down to play.
what about it?
Honestly, I like the protagonist a lot. I gotta say, I think they did
Mm.
a good job with her. The overall the look, the writing, especially just the dialogue and when they try to in their little attempts at humor is I think it's hitting with me. Whereas I think this is what Square in terms of this protagonist, I'm pretty sure this is what Square was going for with Forspoken. You know what I mean? Whereas
Mm.
with
Oh,
Forspoken, the writing fell flat and the protagonist was more cringy than anything. Here, I think it hits those emotional tones, the writing, and just the animations of the protagonist are very well done, and the face actually portrays the emotion that the intended emotion. And funny thing with Forspoken too is like I was like, yo, I thought of that game when I was watching this just because of the protagonist. And I was like, I'm sure this is what they were going for, and I could not remember the name of Forspoken. That game just came out last year, I'm pretty sure too. And I was like, what the hell is even that game? And I had to Google Square Girl Isekai game, to be reminded of
Mm.
the like. That's how just absolutely forgotten
Yeah.
this stupid game is.
Yeah, the game really fell off quickly once it was
But
released.
no, South of Midnight, the setting also, like the voice acting of everything, really. I mean,
Mm.
the setting really drew me in. So even if the gameplay doesn't necessarily look like something I might drive with too much, I think I might still check it out if it's not some like crazy 40, 50 hour adventure. Like it just seems like it's a world that I'm down with exploring because it's also just so different from every other game, right? So
The exploration did seem, if anything, a lot more captivating than the combat did. The combat felt bare bones. It didn't feel like there was something overly
but I
complicated
feel
about
like
it.
the game is
But maybe
probably
that's not where the game is.
that's it. I don't think the combat is really what they're going
Yeah,
for. I don't think that's a selling point. You're not playing this game for the combat. You know,
Yeah.
if you're playing this game, it's
yeah.
because
I
you
think
see
it's
something in the
more.
setting, in the world, and the characters, and
Yeah,
that's what you want to go and look for.
we'll say though some of the music choices did seem very interesting because they're going for the whole blues, the bayou kind of southern music. It seemed to fit really well with what they showed with the boss battles too. So that's something else to look forward to if you are going to give the game a try.
I think as I was kind of reading up on this game, I realized that this it's the same developer that made, I believe, was it We Happy Few,
In
right?
contrast, yeah.
Yeah, and We Happy Few was not that well received. It, was a little clunky. The it just it feels like it was unproven gameplay, and it needed a lot of polish. So I think the approach that I would have with this game is, more like cautiously optimistic. You kind of, you want these games to succeed, and I believe this is the first game that they've made since Microsoft acquired them, right? Back in like, I forgot, it was like, I think 2019 or 2020. So yeah, like hopefully maybe with like Microsoft's money and their backing, like they were able to kind of learn from their mistakes, and hopefully,
Yeah.
you know because again, like it does have potential strengths, right? Like the world is unique, and again, like you mentioned, like the characters and the music and the art direction and whatnot, and again, the combat seems to be engaging. I'm just kind of, to me, it's still unproven. So yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts on the Xbox Developer Direct?
I love the fact. I mean, what was it, under an hour? They showed 4 games, all gameplay. I thought it was
Yeah.
like I thought it was
All games
perfect.
coming out this year as
The
well.
Hell yeah.
the format is fantastic. If they keep doing stuff like this, I'm okay with
Yes.
it. I don't need some talking
Mhm.
head to come out and make these intros and all that. It's always just a great. Here's everything we're showing, and there's one surprise. And they started with Ninja Gaiden right off the bat. It wasn't like a one last thing kind of deal. It was just like a
Yeah.
boom, here it is, and then here's
Yeah.
everything else. Trailers, gameplay coming out this year, hopefully. No delays, but no, very very tight, very focused. Awesome.
I am happy. I'm happy. Like more and more gaming companies are kind of following suit with like Nintendo's models of announcements. It works well. It's straight to the point. It kind of like makes certain events like well now like was it E3 obsolete? So, but yeah. So speaking of
You mentioned Nintendo.
Nintendo revealed the Nintendo Switch 2. Um, it was a quick 2 minute trailer. They showed off kind of like the Switch 1 and how it evolves into the Switch 2. Now, it's fucking hilarious seeing everyone's like 20-30 minute analysis video off this 2 minute video where it's like nothing was shown basically, just like how it
Which
looks.
it looks exactly
But
You,
like the leaked renders had shown.
look. This was not. This was the surprise of the century. Like, look, joking
none
aside,
of us saw it coming.
yeah, nobody saw it coming. Joking aside, like these case makers and whatever, like they already had schematics for this. Like this was like the worst kept secret. So that's why I feel like Nintendo was just like, you know what? All right, screw this. Let's just make a video of the hardware, and I'm actually excited for them to talk about it a bit more in April when they're going to have a Nintendo Direct on it, right? And I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about like some launch titles, and we're probably going to see what kind of differentiates this console from the first one. I don't think it's going to be like anything groundbreaking either. Like I don't expect it to be like a graphical leap forward and be better than the PS5 or the Series X. I don't think that Nintendo has ever been about that. um But I think for me, the biggest thing, like that everyone talked about in those videos, Manny, was the price prediction, right? Everyone talked about how it's
Yeah,
going to be, $3.99, that it can't be $4.99 and whatnot. And I'm actually kind of wondering what your guys' opinion is on that. Like,
I
what
think
is the
it's
sweet spot?
Nintendo. I think they want to make sure it's as accessible as possible to everyone. And so, with that in mind, I think a $400 price point is fairly reasonable.
Like 400 Canadian.
No, 3.99 US.
You think it's 399
Oh,
US? So, how
guys,
much was the Switch One when it came out?
2.99 US.
Right.
Guys, it's just the reason why 3.99 makes the most sense is because when you look at the original Switch and it launched at 2.99, you have to also consider like inflation, the better hardware, possibly more demand. To me, 3.99 feels like the sweet spot. I was actually listening to some podcasts and some videos where people were justifying 4.99 US, and that to me would be just ludicrous. First of all, pushing it to 4.99 is a tough sell for a console that's always been catered towards a younger crowd and more of like a family friendly console. I think if they put it at 4.99, they're shooting themselves in the foot. 3.99, it's still cheaper than the Xbox Series X and it's still cheaper than the PlayStation 5. That's why they can probably justify, that price point. What I think they should be doing is that they should maybe also potentially release a digital only model, and that way they can probably sell that for 3.49 US. But with the dollar exchange, with us being Canadian, 3.99 US is 5.29 Canadian. And I don't know if you guys like, would you guys pay 5.29 Canadian for a Switch 2?
Deepwood.
No, but I also don't think they will release two different models, or else they would have shown it already.
Okay, so the question is, would you pay
They haven't
5.29
shown
Canadian?
anything yet. So how would you even how do you figure that?
Well, they showed the one.
What?
They showed the one version of the console, like how it's going to look like, and it
Yeah,
has
but
a
that doesn't mean
cartridge
that there isn't another
port.
one that may not have a cartridge port.
Potentially.
But even then, it's also a matter of like, what is that cartridge port really costing them, and is it worth it for them to produce a cheaper
Yeah,
model? So who
exactly.
knows? But I mean, look, a Switch OLED right now is 450 Canadian.
Well, there you go.
They're not
They can't
gonna
sell it for
they're
less than
not gonna
450.
price it less than this. So if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably gonna be around 550 Canadian. So yeah, whatever that amounts to in American.
3.99
I think
US.
I think I still am. I'm gonna take a stand on the fact that they're gonna make it not super expensive because they want
Don't
to make
forget
sure this
about the
sells.
tariffs that they just announced, because that's
Where,
gonna
wait,
factor
where's
in
it
too.
being?
But that's coming
But
from
where's it being
From
Japan.
China.
produced? Yeah, so it's not. It doesn't affect the tariffs. It's not gonna affect for us. It's gonna affect the U.S., but maybe not Canada.
That depends on if. Well, they're not gonna. That depends
Look,
on
at
whether
the end of
it's
the
Because
coming.
day,
Canada has their own fulfillment centers, their
no,
own.
no, but at the end of the day, Taz, you said it yourself. It's the Switch OLED right now is 450 Canadian. So already based on that, Manny, this console cannot be 450 or less. So it's gonna be $500. So when you say affordable, to you, is that an affordable amount? Do you still think that they will be catering to younger children, and again, catering to like this family friendly crowd, parents buying it for their kids or grandparents buying it for their grandchildren? Is 500 Canadian viable? Or
No, so that's
okay,
why I think 450 is going to be what they're going to go for.
okay. Hey, I mean, I'd be happy because I mean, I feel like everyone on this, like all of us, we want to buy a Switch too, right? I think it's just a matter of the launch titles, which it seems that there's going to be a new Mario Party game coming out.
Mario
I'm
Kart.
hoping that Metro Prime, Mario Kart, and I'm hoping that Metro Prime 4 Beyond is going to be a launch title as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if they made a new 3D Mario game, like maybe a Mario Odyssey 2, maybe a new Mario game going in a new direction. But I think,
I would love a Mario Galaxy 3.
oh yeah, that's definitely going to be
I mean,
a nice
after
surprise.
Odyssey, I don't think so. I think they're probably gonna stick more towards something like a Bowser's Fury formula, where it's a bit more of an open zone, I guess, concept. But even then, I don't think a new Mario mainline 3D platform is going to be a
Yeah.
launch game. I don't even know if it's going to necessarily come out this year. But you know,
So there are rumors saying that it is a potential launch title, but once again, there are rumors taken with a
I
grain
mean,
of
it'd be
salt.
great, but I also see them
Um,
holding off on it and releasing it closer to the next Mario movie so that they can sort of, cross promote and tie it in.
Hmm. I do have a question for you guys, and it's just, you know, if you had one thing like on your wish list, and we're not talking about the price or whatever, but if there's one thing about the console itself that you have on your wish list, like what would it be? Because for me, what really separated, Nintendo from, like, let's say, the other, competitors, I remember, like, having a 3DS and being able to have themes on my 3DS, right? I'm opening up my 3DS and my 3DS looks different than, let's say, Manny's 3DS. And I just kind of wish that they would go away from, like, that black, boring, nothing, theme that, when you open up the Switch, everything looks the same. I really want them to kind of go back to that. And, I just want us to be able to, like,
well,
personalize our
yeah,
consoles.
The Switch one had the area dedicated for themes, but they never did anything with it.
But that's why I'm kind of like, for me, like, it's again, it's a small thing on the wish list. Of course, I also wished for the Joy-Con not to drift, because I've had, like, four Joy-Cons that had the drifting issues. Also, of course, like, I wish for, better online features, right? Like, their infrastructure is so behind, Sony's and Microsoft's, right? But to me, it's like, what it'll be nice to kind of, separate that console and to just kind of make it my own by having, themes. I'm not gonna, like, wish for, like, an RTX, like, 4090 or whatever, like, on this console or something. But, to me, I just kind of want them to kind of go back to their old roots and to be able to, like, just kind of personalize it just a little bit. But I'm kind of wondering, like, just very quickly, it's like, if you guys
I
had
would
anything in your wish
love
list.
Oh
for
man,
them. I would love for them to put an achievement. Like it's not necessary at all. It doesn't take away from the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo experience. There's some sort of like achievement system.
Okay.
I feel like would be really cool, or just a maybe more fleshed out friend system.
honestly, first off, please improve the eShop.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
slow,
Yeah,
it's badly organized, it's clunky as hell. So give me a better eShop. That's like one of my top things. I would love achievements. That'd be great. I have zero expectations for them. I just don't think that's how Nintendo operates. I don't think that's how they want you playing their games. So I don't think it's ever going to happen. But I still think it'd be cool nonetheless. Get rid of friend codes. Good God, please get rid of friend codes and just improve the friend system overall. Improve your online infrastructure. Maybe not have me download a whole separate app on my phone. If I'm not saying integrate Discord because I don't see Nintendo ever doing that. Maybe just, have rooms set up somehow that I can go into a chat room with a friend or something. Just in whatever
I mean maybe they were trying to like
Nintendo way
mimic.
you want to do it,
Maybe they're
just please do it.
yeah. Maybe they were trying to mimic like the Xbox app or the PSN app, but it was like they were so much more fleshed out than a Nintendo app ever was.
And maybe do some other cool things like how 3DS used to have Street Pass. You know,
Oh my god, I fucking love the Street Pass system. I completely
like
forgot that was a thing.
you have a fully
Okay,
mobile console. Why not integrate something
Yeah.
like that and just go
off
back into it?
slightly
100%.
slight tangent, slight tangent. I know we're a bit over time, but it's like remember one to these Legend of Zelda Orchestra in
Yeah.
Montreal, and I brought my 3DS with me when that was still a
Oh,
thing.
yeah, I remember that.
In like in between like break, like whenever they would have a break, I would open up my 3DS and I have like so many Street Pass like whatever like invitations to go through, and it was so much fun when little light flashes green.
Now, granted, I know that if you guys remember, they had that network test for some secret online app or whatever that some people got invited to last year. So maybe this is something along those lines. I don't think we necessarily got a whole lot of details on it, but I mean, Street Pass is such a, I don't want to say simple thing. It's not like I know anything about how something like that would work, but it's just a given to include it on this if you're not gonna have DSs out in the wild anymore, but this is like your new home and mobile console. I mean,
Yeah.
do it. People loved it. Why not just give it back to them?
Maybe that'll be a surprise reveal in April.
But in terms of power, I mean,
All
I've
right.
learned not to ask that of Nintendo because I think you're looking at the wrong company for that. They know how to do a lot with a little, and you just
Hmm.
have to trust them. Anyone going to Nintendo is not going there because of power. They're going there because of the software that they're capable of outputting. And if you
Absolutely.
know, if you could release Tears of the Kingdom on Switch, then you know what, man, I'm just gonna shut my mouth because like that's it. They know what they're doing over there. They know who their demographics
Yeah.
are. So all
It's
the
not like
Switch 2 needs to
PC,
do
Switch,
all
PC,
Switch 2 needs to
Xbox.
do is just do whatever they were doing with Switch 1 on a console that just has more power than previous generation to allow them to
Yeah.
optimize and do things with it they want to be doing them in the future. But that's it. They don't need to do anything more.
But that's the thing too. Like we can't. It's not like Xbox or Sony games where we can play them on other consoles eventually. Like if you want to play a Nintendo game, you're gonna
Well,
have to get a
yeah,
Switch.
you're not gonna see
Yeah.
a Zelda game ever coming out on PC. You know, like they know what
Yeah.
their IPs are. They know what
Not
their IPs are
officially,
worth.
anyways.
They know how to make great first party titles. I would love to see more third party support, and I think you're gonna see that after the success of the Switch. I think every company would be stupid not to look at that Switch 2 and be like, yeah, you know what, we're gonna skip out on it. So you're gonna definitely be seeing a lot of ports, a lot of indies for sure. But the main reason anyone's going to a Nintendo console is to play the games you can't play anywhere else, and that's your Mario Karts and your Zeldas and Donkey Kongs and so on and so forth. So in the end,
Yeah.
it's like even the
I
price
mean,
question,
even Phil
they can price it
Spencer's.
however they
Yeah.
want it to, and it's gonna sell. Really, I mean, at the end of the day, this console has already won. Like people just wanted the Switch, but better, and that's what they're getting. So if they do make it 500
Exactly.
US,
If we're talking about like third party support, even like Phil Spencer recently said that like he's looking forward to like they're looking as a whole like as a company supporting Nintendo and
yeah,
the
this
Switch.
might be you might see
So
Halo on Switch this generation. I think I'm honestly, I will put it out there right now. You're going to see the Master Collection come out on Switch.
ooh,
The
I'd be
Wow.
the
so
Halo
happy with
Master
that.
Collection. You're
Okay.
gonna see that will be on
Yeah.
Switch. It'll probably also come out on PlayStation, but you will see it on Switch.
That's
All
bold.
right. So speaking of bold, this is kind of a discussion question to tie up the podcast.
Hmm.
So question for you guys: what hidden gem do you think will go under the radar for most people for 2025? And if you're having a hard time figuring out a title, maybe what's a game that hasn't been announced or a game you would love to see finally
I
released?
want another Dead or Alive game. If you guys are giving me Ninja Gaiden,
Ooh,
I
yes.
hope it does well enough that they decide to come out with another Dead or Alive because that series is
Extreme
great.
beach
When was the
volleyball,
last
right?
Dead or
No,
Alive?
Are we talking about extreme beach volley?
yeah, absolutely. Give me them. Give me them. Give me them volleyballs if you know what I mean. But no, give me another DOA, man. In terms of 3D fighters, I've always much preferred DOA to Tekken.
Yeah.
So
When was the last DOA?
Oh my
it's been a
god.
while. I think it was. I
Oh.
think the last like official release was sometime on PS4, and it was like some weird free to play structure where we had to pay for character packs and whatever. And it's just like throw all that trash out the window and just give me a proper Dead or Alive release, please.
All right, all right. Nothing like Killer Instinct where
Oh, I
it's
will.
like,
See, I don't know. As much as I would
yeah.
love to say that I want another Killer Instinct, I barely even touched the last game, and I tried playing it, and I just couldn't get into it.
It wasn't
So,
the same.
I mean,
I also didn't understand the release, the how they were separating the characters and like how some people got free access to certain characters or like a
well, I
free
think the
version of the
way
game
I
with
think the way
certain
that it worked is
characters.
there was a free character, there was a free version of the game, and then the characters that you had access
Right.
to would just rotate every whatever period of time, week or so on. But then you could just
Okay.
buy the full version with all the characters. It was really good, and like it was a very good fighting game. It was just sort of, I prefer the more
Hmm.
classic Street Fighters and stuff like that. So it was just not a game that I was up for learning the mechanics. But I know that there's a very big following that did enjoy the last one that would love another one. So yeah, another Killer Instinct for sure.
Okay.
Oh, actually, you know what? Sorry, another one. Give me just another new 3D four-player co-op included Ninja Turtles just game. So give me something.
Did they just
There's
release one
Shredder's
But
recently?
Revenge, but I
3D.
want like a 3D one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I know
Oh, okay.
Platinum like years ago released something. It was called Mutants in Manhattan or Manhattan Project or something like that. That game sucked ass, and I had such high hopes because it was a Platinum game, and I was like, yo,
Yeah.
Platinum and Ninja Turtles, like, come on. But no, come on, just please give me one good Ninja Turtles game that's 4-player co-op.
And that's why he's not excited. That's why he can't get excited about Expedition 33
That
ever
game
since
left a
that
scar
game.
on my psyche, man. I'm telling you.
What about you, Jazz?
Yeah, honestly, look, the question was never what's a realistic thing that you'd want, but look, I think in the same vein of, Taz, being a big fan of fighting games, and I completely understand with Dead or Alive. I still remember, getting an Xbox and being able to play Dead or Alive for the first time, and that was just wow. And I know that this is probably not gonna happen, but I would love a new Bioshock game. I am just it's just again my brain says no, but my heart knows what my heart wants, and it's a new Bioshock game. I'd be
Well,
just, super super super
you're
excited.
getting Judas.
Yeah,
Didn't
it,
Bioshock Infinite do well?
it did. I mean, look, Bioshock Infinite, I feel like got a lot of hate because, people were just, I don't know what unrealistic expectations they had of it, but I thought that that it was the perfect end of, this trilogy, if you want to call it that. I thought Infinite was great. I'm just aching for a new Bioshock game. Again, it's just something that you said that, games that we wish would be announced, not necessarily games that are going to
Right.
come out. But in terms of sleeper games of 2025, if I did have a game for it, I don't know if it's going to come out this year because there's just, you know, they announced it a couple of years ago. It's been in the making for 10 plus years now, but Little Devil Inside, and I know that it evolved. It was one thing before, and then like they released a gameplay video like 2 years ago or something like that, and it was completely different, right? And people were kind of confused about it. And now people are joking, saying like, "I'd be happy if they release a game in the next 50 years." But
Yeah, I remember like when we saw that. Was it during the Video Game Awards or something? You and I were like both
oh,
really looking forward to
oh,
that, but then just fell off the
m-
face of the
but
earth.
that's the thing. It's like, if this game finally comes out in 2025, I think it'll be a huge win. Like, I know that it's been in development forever, and that doesn't necessarily, spell. I mean, I know that it's not necessarily a positive thing either, but I loved the unique art style that they showed, and the whole like adventure survival gameplay. If they look, if I just hope that it does well, and I hope that it comes out one day. I hope that it's not a thing where it's in development for 10 years and then they cancel it. But yeah, I remember you and I, we watched that trailer together, that whole gameplay like deep
Yeah.
dive, and it looked amazing. So that will be like my sleeper game because I feel like nobody's talking about it. But if it did end up coming out in 2025, that would definitely be the one that I would want. But you know, and again, wishful thinking would be a new BioShock game because that would really steal the show for sure.
Yo,
What about
this
you?
year for my boy
Like,
Manu, please release Silk Song.
But is it really a sleeper though? Because that's the
It's not.
thing,
It's
right?
not.
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
honestly, that developer must be sleeping because that game has been in development for.
we
that's a good
we
one.
did actually have someone from their Team Cherry's like marketing team say that it's gonna come out. So like there's some reassurance, but it's just a matter of when at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, oh God, it's been a while. It's been a while for sure. I just kind of feel like
Yeah.
people have kind of given up on that. But what is it? Is it like two people working on that game or something? Manny, do you
I
have
don't know.
either a sleeper game or a game that you would love to see announced? And just don't say any Zelda game. Like, come on, make it a bit more interesting. I knew you were gonna go there.
You mean
I was gonna start off by saying I know I'm the resident Zelda lover here, but so apparently rumors are that Nintendo has been sitting on this 3-pack, kind of like the Mario anniversary thing,
Hmm.
of a remake of Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. Well, not a remake or like an HD
remasters?
version. Twilight Princess remasters of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. I want those. I want them so bad. You don't understand. I've been craving to replay Twilight Princess for the longest fucking time because it's such a phenomenal fucking game from beginning to end. One of the best Zelda games ever. And then I finally want to finish Wind Waker, which is one of the only
That's so
Zelda
funny.
games I
That's
haven't
the
finished.
only Zelda game I've ever finished.
This guy is
I
about to sell
always
his soul
stop.
to the devil just for this.
I always stop at the same point in the story, which is when you have to collect the Triforce shards, which is like the very end of the
That's where
fucking game. But for whatever
my
reason, I
first
can't commit.
playthrough. Well, my only playthrough. That's where I had stopped back on the GameCube when that happens, and they're like, "I go get him." I was like, "Yo, power button." I was like, "I'm not doing this," and I went back. I think like 6 months later, and I was like, "Fine, I'll do it." And I just followed a guide, and it actually wasn't as bad as you would think. But apparently, for the remaster,
This
they
is a
fixed. Oh well,
weird,
for the remake, the remaster, they've like fixed it, or they
yeah,
made it a slightly more less annoying version.
yeah. Instead of you having to find them, they tell you they hint at where to go, and it's a lot easier. But for whatever reason, this is a core memory that I have of coming over to your place, Taz, and sitting on your like little couch in your room when watching you like play Wind Waker, pause the game, read the walkthrough,
Oh
and
yeah,
give me a
because I
hard
was like,
time.
"There's no way I'm gonna do this and actually like waste my time with this." Like it's such a the game. You get to that point, and it just grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so,
But they did streamline it a lot more in the HD version of the
but
game.
yeah, that art style, man. I would love for them to make another Zelda game in that style, but I feel like people are just gonna like massacre Nintendo if they do that at this point.
I think they kind of did though. With Phantom Hourglass and then Spare Tracks, it wasn't as well received, but I thought Phantom Hourglass at the very least was like a phenomenal game still.
So is Zelda your game?
Weak.
I was gonna mention Silk Song, but you guys beat me to that. So to finally have a release date because they announced that back 2017
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
It's been 8 years. No, you're kidding me. No, the first one came out in 2017. Silk Song was announced in 2019. So it's been 6 years now.
Ow.
Yeah.
It'll come one day, right?
Yeah.
Yo, switch to
You know what will come one day? The next
switch
episode
to
of the
launch
podcast.
title.
So thanks thanks for tuning in. We appreciate the support. We will leave our socials, our YouTube, Twitch, all of that stuff in the description of the podcast, wherever you're listening to this. If you guys want to send us an email, you can also email us at nonquitehighscore@gmail.com. If
Yo,
you have questions,
do you
comments.
remember the password to that inbox?
I did have to reset the
Ay,
password.
ay,
World's
ay.
But you'll be happy to know that we did not receive
of
any
course.
emails, so it's still an empty.
The only email you received
Yeah.
was Gmail being like, "Yo, if you don't get any activity, we're deleting this."
So Manu, Natalie, if you want to send us an email, please. uh,
All right.
Just email us
Taz,
and
aren't you
say
supposed to say
hello.
something like funny at the end? Like just to
Nah,
kind of
dude,
close
my
it
humor,
out,
yeah,
just like good
my
old
humor
times.
died when I had a child, man. That kid took everything from me.
I'm gonna take a snippet of this and send this to your daughter
Play
when
this
she's
at
old
her
enough.
wedding.
No, no, this is
Like
exactly.
the day you were born, all the joy left my life.
Jeez. On that note,
I feed
That
you,
note,
but I
bye.
think of playing metaphor.
bye.